What if someone told you that your greatest obstacle could be the very thing that leads to your greatest breakthrough? That's exactly what happened to Naaman, a mighty warrior who faced a life-threatening disease. But this story isn't just about a healing miracle. It's about what happens when you trust in something bigger than yourself. Welcome to Story of Grace, where today we'll unravel a story of faith, obedience, and transformation. This story might just change the way you think about challenges. Stay with us till the end, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more life-changing stories. Naaman's struggles. Naaman had everything: power, wealth, and fame. He was known across the land as a great general who had won many battles for his country. But despite all his accomplishments, there was one thing Naaman couldn't overcome. He had leprosy. This disease was devastating, and it was his biggest weakness. It didn't matter how much power he had, how much wealth he could spend, or how many victories he won. Leprosy made him an outcast, a person to be feared and avoided. But could a mighty warrior like Naaman be healed from something that powerful? It was a question that seemed impossible to answer, but Naaman's story was just beginning. The journey he was about to take would challenge his faith, his pride, and his willingness to trust. A simple girl with a big heart. It's incredible how a simple act of kindness can change the course of a life. Naaman, a man of great stature, was about to be saved by a humble servant girl. Can you imagine the courage it must have taken for her to speak up, knowing she had no power or influence in Naaman's world? Yet, this young girl told Naaman's wife about a prophet in Israel named Elisha, who could heal Naaman. What if it was her small act of faith that triggered the beginning of Naaman's healing? Her words set the stage for the incredible events that were about to unfold. Little did Naaman know, it wasn't his strength or his military skills that would heal him, but his willingness to trust in something greater than himself. The king's help. Naaman didn't waste time after hearing the news. He immediately sought help from his king, knowing that the king's influence could make the journey easier. But here's the twist. Naaman thought that he could solve his problem with a letter from the king. He was powerful, right? So shouldn't the solution be equally grand? But what happens when we rely on our own strength, and the solutions we expect don't come the way we think they should? That's exactly what happened when Naaman received the king's letter, and it didn't solve the problem the way he expected. Instead, it led him on a completely different path. Can the king's letter lead him to true healing? Or would it be something completely different that would change his life forever? Elisha's simple command. When Naaman finally arrived in Israel, expecting a grand gesture or a dramatic show of power, what did he get? A simple instruction. Go wash in the Jordan River 7 times, and you will be healed. The expectation was huge. The reality was simple. It's interesting how often God's ways defy our expectations. Naaman's initial reaction was one of anger. This wasn't what he imagined. He was ready for something more complicated, something impressive. But sometimes, the answer to our biggest problems comes through the most unexpected methods. Have you ever been in a situation where what seemed like the most simple solution turned out to be the most effective one? Naaman was about to discover that his healing was hidden in humility. Naaman's anger and doubt. How many times have we been in Naaman's shoes, expecting a big, flashy solution to our problems, only to be disappointed with something that seems too easy or too ordinary? Naaman was furious. How could the prophet expect him to wash in the Jordan River when there were better rivers back home? Naaman's pride nearly stopped him from taking the step that would bring his healing. Pride often keeps us from experiencing the blessings God has for us. We look for answers in all the wrong places, and sometimes we miss the simple solution right in front of us. Naaman had to face his own pride to receive his healing. Are you willing to let go of your pride and follow a simple solution, even when it doesn't make sense? The turning point. What was it that finally convinced Naaman to obey? It was his servants. They reminded him that if the prophet had asked him to do something difficult, he would have done it without hesitation. But why not try the simple command? Naaman's turning point came when he realized that sometimes obedience, no matter how simple it seems, is the key to breakthrough. Naaman had to humble himself and take action, even when it didn't make sense. And when he did, something extraordinary happened. Naaman dipped himself in the Jordan River, and on the 7th time, his skin was restored. He was healed. This moment wasn't just about physical healing, it was about Naaman's heart being transformed. Could Naaman's story be the reminder we need to follow through on God's simple instructions in our lives? A heart of gratitude. When Naaman was healed, he didn't just go back to his old life. He returned to Elisha, thanking him and declaring that there was no God like the God of Israel. What did this moment reveal about Naaman's heart? It wasn't just about the healing of his body, it was about the healing of his soul. Naaman recognized that God had done something amazing in his life, and he wanted to honor that. True healing always leads to gratitude. When God transforms our lives, it's not just about us, it's about giving Him the glory for what He has done. Naaman's story is a reminder that when God changes us, our response should be one of worship and thanksgiving. Will we, like Naaman, acknowledge God's greatness and give Him thanks for what He has done in our lives? The power of faith and obedience. Faith and obedience are two keys that unlocked Naaman's healing. But how often do we struggle to follow through with what God asks us to do, especially when it doesn't make sense or seems too simple? Naaman's journey teaches us that faith isn't just about believing in the impossible. It's about trusting and obeying even when the answer is simple. Naaman had to take a step of faith, and that step led to his healing. It wasn't just his body that was healed, but his entire perspective on life and faith. How is God asking you to trust and obey today? Could it be that your breakthrough is tied to a simple step of faith? How can this apply to us? The story of Naaman shows us that sometimes the most powerful solutions are hidden in simple acts of obedience. Just like Naaman, we may face challenges that seem insurmountable. But if we are willing to follow God's instructions, even when they seem too simple or too strange, we can experience miracles in our lives. Naaman's story is not just about a physical healing, it's about trusting God in the process, no matter how it looks. Will we choose to take that step of faith, no matter how simple the solution may seem? Faith and obedience lead to transformation. Naaman's transformation didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't just about getting healed. It was about his heart being changed through faith and obedience. Just like Naaman, our own journeys are filled with moments where faith and obedience are required. It may not always make sense, and it may not always be easy, but it's in those moments that God does His most profound work. Could it be that God is calling you to take that step of faith today? Will you trust him with the process? We hope that Naaman's story has encouraged you to trust in God's plan, even when it doesn't look like what you expected. Faith and obedience can lead to transformation, no matter how impossible the situation may seem. Don't forget to subscribe to Story of Grace for more inspiring videos, and hit the bell so you never miss a new one. Take care, and we'll see you next time.